Welcome to Broken Bushcraft. I'm Adam. If I think about one question I get asked for the most, it's the Ferro Rod question. How to use it. I can recall back to the first time I started using a Ferro Rod. So let's go over some of the ways and how to use this Ferro Rod and make it successful for you. So Ferro Rods are one of my favorite ways to start fire. They're the most reliable, more so than a lighter really. Hundreds if not thousands of strikes out of these things. They're gonna last you a long time. Now, the problem with most Ferro Rods is people get them, they get these kind of like this. It has a small Ferro Rod and this little holder here, this little scraper. Now, this scraper part right here on top, that's used to scrape some of the Ferro Rod down so you can make yourself a little pile of magnesium on top of your bird's nest. I'm just gonna tell you, don't even bother with that. Just use the 90-degree spine here, the 90-degree spine. Use that on your Ferro Rod and you'll throw the sparks. If you use the scraper, you're gonna start causing grooves. Ow. And it's not gonna work very well because you have to angle it to get that 90-degree on there. And then you start getting these grooves along your Ferro Rod, not giving you the most surface for the bang for your buck there, the most surface area to strike. So use the 90-degree surface here. Now, I'm not a huge fan of ones with little holders here. Actually, you can see this is already cracked and I've only used it a couple times, mostly for demos. So you get this little striker here and you start getting frustrated because you're trying to throw sparks and it's not throwing sparks because you're using that scraper part, or using this and it's just throwing sparks because you're not using enough. You're just going right there. It's throwing sparks and you're like, oh, it should be lighting everything on fire. But you're not getting, mass sparks. When you're doing this, it's not doing anything. You gotta get into it. Launch those sparks out there. So if you're causing just small sparks, you're not getting what you're paying for here. And then what happens is then you start doing this, which I think I did the first time I did this. I was just trying to throw as many sparks as possible at it, but you see they're not going very far, where I can just go like that, and I'm launching the sparks. So frustration is the very first thing that makes people take this thing and say, it sucks, I'm never using this thing again. So if you have one of these strikers, scrapers, don't use this, use this. And that will help cure some of the frustration. Next one is grip. So there's a couple schools of thought on how to actually use the Ferro Rod. I'm gonna use the spine of my knife. I like to use the 90-degree spines of my knife. I'm gonna use my Ferro Rod here. So a couple methods here. You have the push, pull, or you're gonna lock this in place here, the Ferro Rod in place, and you're gonna push with the 90-degree of the spine of the knife. So there you go. So you're just gonna push it out there. Next one is pulling. You're gonna lock the knife in or lock your scraper in and pull the Ferro Rod. Another method to do it is if you have your tinder here, you put your scraper, lock it close to your ankle, and pull the Ferro Rod back. And that's gonna shower where it's more accurate. You're gonna shower that area with sparks. Either way, whether you're push or pull, you just want to shower with the sparks. So the not holding it tight enough is where people get kind of screwed up. So what they'll do is they'll start pushing, and then the blade or the Ferro Rod will dip down. So they start doing this right here, and then they're just causing these to go straight down, not even out here towards where I want it to go. Or the blade will twist and they'll kind of come down and only throw sparks a little ways out. So whatever you do, lock your blade, lock your Ferro Rod in place, and then there you go. Another reason people have issues with ferro rods is not using the entire ferro rod. Now you see I have an antler here. This was a friend of mine gave this to me. Most of them are wrapped in tape, but I can grab here and I still have 4 inches to use. So that's 4 inches that I can get to the tip here and ride all the way down. So ride all the way down. You'll see that some people start using just a little bit here, so they just start flicking off the edge, tip, just the tip. What that's going to do is you're only getting so many sparks. Why only get that many sparks when I can get that many sparks? So using the full ferro rod, another reason people have some issues. So grip, frustration, not using the full ferro rod, those are some key main issues that people have with ferro rods. Now, the 90-degree spine on my knife, I love using. Now, if this knife was coated, which none of my knives really are coated, but if it's coated and you have to use the blade as a last option, use the very bottom part of the blade here. This part gets used the least amount. So keep all this sharp, but then just use that portion down here. That way you can strike it off there. I'm not going to do that with this because I don't need to. Now, if you've lost your blade, lost your striker, but you have something metal, like you have like your saw blade, you can actually throw sparks with this too, and that will throw pretty good sparks. Whenever you're using this, and you're doing the right pressure, you're getting the right speed, your embers should be dancing off the ground. You should be fire god to the ants. When you strike this, you should be throwing a mass of sparks out there. They should be hitting the ground and dancing for a second. That's when you know you're throwing good sparks. If you're throwing and they're just kind of dying in the air, that means you're going too fast. Or you're not. If you press hard enough and you go slow enough, it's still dancing. So if you're going too fast, you're throwing sparks, but they're not lasting. If you're going too slow, you're only throwing a couple sparks. So the test for this is stand up, throw some sparks, and see if they're dancing on the ground. If they are, find that speed, keep that speed, go that speed. And when you're thinking about it, you're only throwing them right here. So that's as far as you're throwing them out there. Whatever way you do it, just know that this tool right here will keep your fires going for you if you use it right. Don't get frustrated with it, work with it, practice with it, because it's gonna last you for thousands of strikes. So you're not gonna wear it out too fast. They're most likely not gonna break on you. The thing that will break is if you have it in a handle, most likely the handles are always gonna break. This one is just about done. There you go. I'll just throw some more glue in there. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you in the woods.